Record. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. This is meant to be a workshop, okay? Not a presentation necessarily. Yes, I'm going to present some things and do some teaching and coaching here, but I do want you to feel free to come off mute, ask any questions that you have. I really want this to be as interactive as possible. Otherwise, I could just talk to myself on my podcast, right? So if you guys have any feedback, if you have any questions, if something's not clear, if you want to, you know, if you just want to chat, feel free to do so. All right. So we're going to get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Oh, I'm already sharing my screen. There we go. All right. So today we're going to talk about four of the most crucial budgeting boss moves that are critical right now within the childcare industry. I do know, I believe that both of you are in the industry. Can you let me know? Just shout out if you can take yourself off mute really quick and tell me what state you are calling from.
Ladies first.
Tennessee.
Tennessee. All right. And what
And
about you?
Virginia for me.
Virginia. Okay. Are you
Yep.
close to the DC area? Or are you farther away?
Central Virginia. So Richmond, I'll be close to Richmond and Charlottesville.
Got it. Okay. Perfect.
So
Perfect.
about 3 hours away from DC. Yep.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Good deal. And I live in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, about 45 minutes outside of Nashville, 30 to 45 minutes, depending on
Okay.
how traffic goes. So good to meet both of you.
Nice.
I'm sure I know we've interacted either through email or we've interacted through social media in some way. So it's great to have you both here live today.
I'm
That's
in
always,
Nashville.
oh, you're
So,
in Nashville.
yeah.
Perfect.
Well,
Perfect.
I'm
So
in
we're
Goodlettsville, but Nashville, yeah.
in Goodlettsville is just north of Nashville, right?
Correct.
Okay, got it, got it, got it. Okay, so we're at Murfreesboro is south, so we're probably an hour, a little bit over an hour away from where you're at.
I think
But
it's
good deal.
51
Nice.
minutes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Good to meet you. Good to meet you. So I'm glad to have you guys here. Obviously, you've seen something from me that said, "Hey, let's get these budgets together." Obviously, we know all about what's going on in the world right now with SNAP benefits being closed as of 2 days from now, and all of the rest of the things are kind of hit people. And I know a lot of child care center owners are concerned about how all of this is going to affect subsidy payments, how that's going to affect food program expenses or reimbursements and that kind of thing. So we're going to kind of touch on the overall child care thing, and if there's anything that comes up that you guys want further detail on, once again, please make sure to let me know. So first we're going to talk about kind of who this is for, right? If you're in the right place. It sounds like both of you guys both have centers. So you're in the right place for sure. You're in the right industry for who I'm speaking to today. I if you want to better manage your cash, then you're in the right place. If you are feeling a little bit worried about meeting payroll, that's one of the biggest things that comes up. That's the largest expense that we have in childcare. If that's one of the things that concerns you, um, if way too often it feels uncomfortable to run payroll, there's things happening around that, then you're in the right place. We If you're tired of kind of the trial and error that comes along with managing your finances, this is the place to be, to make sure that we're making sure that we get the budget together. And then if you want a profitable preschool, a lot of times what happens is that we end up in a situation where we've started this child care center and we had the best idea for how it's going to work. And we knew we were going to have full enrollment within 6 months and we were going to keep that enrollment and things were just going to be flowing. But as we know that things don't always happen that way. And so if you're managing the money, sorry, just a second, guys, for some odd reason, my, there we go. My laptop, I had the wrong charger plugged in. There we go. So we don't lose battery there. All right. So for some people that happens when you want a profitable preschool, but things aren't necessarily running in the way that you're expecting them to. And so we want to make sure that we're taking care of people who have that situation today as well. And then if you have sense just that there's a change that needs to happen in order to grow your child care center and expand to the level that you really had dreamed about and that you really had an idea for when you started and when you got into this business. So that's who this is for. Does that resonate with you all at all? If it does, just go ahead and tell me it does.
It does.
It
It does.
does. Good. Is there any one thing that is the biggest trouble for you right now? My audio got cut off. Was there one thing that's the biggest thing for you right now?
Mine is sticking to the budget.
Sticking to the budget. Okay, so it sounds like you might
Or
have one.
wasting.
Uh-huh. You've got one, but it's not necessarily working out and sticking to it the way you want to. Anthony, anything for you?
I I would have to agree with Leslie, but more so trying to stay within the percentage ranges of different categories.
Okay.
So that way the cash flow is positive at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yep, I would agree with Leslie.
Okay, that makes complete sense. And I think that's a common thing. So I don't want you guys to feel like you're alone. So you both heard that you're both kind of struggling right now in the same area. And struggle doesn't mean that there's no progress. It just means that you have recognized that that's an area for improvement. So in the next hour or so, here's what I want to make sure that I cover. All right. I'm going to make sure that I am covering things about your financial flow. Okay. So how are things moving? How to build a profitable preschool. And I don't mean build meaning from the ground up, but how to maintain it. And then we're going to look for leaks. So where are the things that are kind of flooding out the door and that are causing us to be able to miss out on some of those budgeted items, or things that are causing it to where that cash flow is not positive at the end of the month, or to where we also have a situation where, okay, look, I'm not able to keep up with this budget. I'm either overspending in some areas, underspending in others, and not really able to keep up with it on a regular basis. Okay. So I'm not one of those folks that does webinars and I'm talking about myself the whole time. Like I said, I really want this to be interactive. I'm going to make sure that I deliver on the things that I did promise to you, which is that we are going to go over those four key areas: the financial flow, building the profitable preschool, looking for the leaks, and then also building smart money systems. As we go through this, if you are able, I will give time to also be able to work during this. And what I mean by that is, as I introduce the concepts, I may pause to give 5 minutes for you to actually look at your numbers and work through them. Because one of the biggest issues I see is that we can go to webinars, we can go to conferences, we can go to lunch and learns and things like that, and we walk away really inspired and have these great ideas, but we don't implement. And so I definitely want to make sure that we get into implementation as well. All right. And I want to make sure that you also take notes. So as we're going through this, feel free to take notes. As we go through this as well, what I am going to be doing is I'll be sharing my other screen where I'm going to walk you through this with my pen and paper, if you will, on my iPad, to make sure that you're understanding the concepts, because seeing a wall of numbers gets a lot really difficult sometimes. I think that's why we shy away from the financial side of things sometimes. And so I like to make things visual and make them interesting, to as interesting as it can get with financials, to make sure that it's visually appealing and so that you can understand it in that way as well. Okay. All right, so we already talked about who this is for, but I wanted to just kind of reiterate that this is for you if you feel like you're constantly managing money instead of feeling mastery over it. If you're struggling to make ends meet, especially when families or subsidy pays late, and if you're worried about, like, I've done all of the right things or all of the things that I've heard about, but something's still missing from my money system. Okay. And the real problem in all of this is truly the budget, right? How the budget is flowing, whether or not we're able to see, here's how much money is coming in, how much is coming out, and making sure that we're managing those in the right way. And yes, there is a right way to do it. Everybody does it a little bit differently, but making sure that we do them in a way that makes sense for the type of business you're in, for the type of flow that comes through your center. And so we're going to make sure that we're getting the budget really right today. And keeping in mind that you have the power, okay? You have the power over your finances. They don't have the power over you. Keeping in mind that as you go through this today and in the days to come after this, that whether things are a little short, remember there's things that can stop temporarily, okay? There are things that you can do on this day, in the days that come, to increase your revenue if possible, right? So we're going to talk about some of the things that are sometimes missing and all of those things. So let's get into it. Brief introduction, because this is my first time talking actually to the both of you in person, as close to in person as it would be, I guess. So I am Alexis. I am the CEO of Little Ledgers Accounting. I am also the host of the Profitable Preschool podcast, where we interview the we interview child care center owners for to learn more about how they're operating their businesses, their best practices, how they manage their body, their business, their boundaries, their all of those types of things. I'm also a certified public accountant, CPA for short, and I'm also a certified tax planner. Just this last week, I talked to a new lady who is out of California, and we are going to be able to save her $6,000 in taxes just from 2024. So being able to review those tax returns, even from prior years, to bring up new savings for people makes a big difference for the budget. And really, my mission is to empower childcare owners to be confident financially. I want you to have that cash confidence that makes a major difference in how you feel, and so that you can nurture the next generation. As we know, early childhood education makes a huge difference in the outcomes of our communities and the outcomes of our children, and the outcomes of the next generation. And so, when you all are able to be profitable, you're able to put in the best resources, you're able to put in the best staff, you're able to do the things that you really want to do to empower the children, as well as being able to make sure that um, you are profitable and taking care of your families as well. Okay. I'm just going to check the chat here because I do see. Oh, Nina says that cash confidence is so important. Yes, absolutely it is. Nina, welcome as well. All right, so right now let's start to dig deep into the budgeting boss moves that are critical right now. The first one is financial flow. All right, so I'm actually going to share my second screen here. So a lot of times we are nearly clutching our pearls because the financial flow is not as it should be. And so we want to change that today by getting the financial flow together. Let me share my next screen. All right, can you guys see my iPad screen up there? Somebody take yourself off mute if you can and tell me yes or no.
No.
No? Okay. Hold on.
Got Dave Chappelle on it.
Okay. clutching his clutching the cash. Let's see if it'll do that again. Let's share. Are we there?
I'm here.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. So are you guys able to see my screen now? Hopefully you can.
We see something that says screen mirroring.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay. Yep. So we'll be able to go from there. Perfect. Okay. It keeps going back and forth. Sorry about that. Hold on just a second. Thanks for your patience, guys. All right. Hopefully now you see it. Is it there? I think so on my side.
No? Yes.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. All right. It looks like there might be a hair of a delay, so I'll make sure that I go slowly so that if there's any delay between my screen and my voice, that you guys are still able to get what you need. All right. So first, like I said before, we are going to talk about the financial flow. Okay. And with the financial flow, there's a few key things that you really want to make sure that that you know. The first one is the due dates. Come on, screen. Sorry about that. You want to know the due, I'll keep going and then hopefully it'll catch up with me. So you want to make sure that you're knowing the due dates of everything. Okay. Everything that comes in, everything that goes out of the business. So if they're regular bills like utilities, rent, we've got payroll, obviously, that comes up, but then you've got other things that come up as well, like dues and subscriptions. What day is that Bright Wheeler Pro Care payment coming out? What day is the amounts for your utilities? What due dates are those? Are they actually charted out on your system? We want to make sure that you know those on a regular basis. So if you know those due dates, that gives you a better idea of what you can do in terms of your budget. What's going to be coming out this week? What's going to be coming out this month? That makes a huge difference. The second part of the financial flow is the income flow. And with the income flow, that's when is it coming in? Most of you, are you guys paid on a monthly basis or are you guys charging weekly and collecting on a weekly basis?
For me, it's on a weekly basis.
Weekly. Okay, so you're charging a set amount. Let's say it's $200 to $300 a week, and your parents are paying you're invoicing them weekly on a Friday or Monday or something like that, and every week they're paying in that way. Okay, okay. Do you have anyone? Obviously, the other part of it is that often there is one big payment that comes in from the state. If you do have any children and parents that receive any payments directly from the state, those are coming in more than likely on a monthly basis. So there's normally one kind of large check that comes in as well. Does that sound about right for everyone?
Yes, for me, yeah.
Okay.
Because we have we're part of mixed delivery and subsidy. So subsidy comes twice a month. Mixed delivery comes once a month, usually the first week of the month.
Gotcha. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. And from that, I'm going to go ahead and close out this back screen. But from there, we are knowing those due dates, inflows and outflows allow you to know how the cash flow is going to go for that week. So Anthony mentioned earlier about making sure that at the end of the month that the cash flow is positive. Obviously, we want money in the bank. We want more money than we had last month in the bank at the end of the month. So in order to do that, we're going to need to know how much is coming in each week. Okay, so if let's say that you're making $100,000 per month, your center's bringing in you've probably got about 100 kids at $1,000 a piece. And with those children enrolled, we're expecting about $25,000 per week. Okay, so if you're bringing in your income on a weekly basis, we also want to know those due dates on a weekly basis. What is coming out this specific week that we need to plan ahead for? Okay, so those are the main things that we're going to start off with. And with Okay, this is not speeding up as quickly as I want it to. I need it to be as fast as my fingers. I'm just going to check the chat here for a second. Right now, have you either all three of you, have any of you had it to where you are to where you have seen each week you know exactly what's going to come out that week ahead of the week coming up? Does anybody have that kind of system in place yet? Or is that still something we're working on? And it's okay if you don't want to talk out loud. You can also put it in the chat. Say working on it if you're working on it. Say got it if you got it.
Still working on it for me.
Okay.
Can you repeat your question again? I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. So my question was whether or not you have kind of have it charted out yet about whether or not you what the expenses are that are coming out or income that's coming in on a weekly basis.
So I have my incoming, my income that comes in on a weekly basis charted.
Mhm,
Expenses that go out, not so much. I kind of know like when subscriptions come out and things like that.
mhm,
Um, and the ones that are uh the same every month.
mhm. Okay, so it sounds like you have a good idea of kind of what it is, but not necessarily this coming up week what is coming out. So okay, good, good, good. It's good, just good. Thank you guys for being so transparent. It's good to know just kind of where everyone is at. All right, so let's keep going here. So if you guys can still see my screen, that is wonderful. Hopefully you can still see the iPad screen so we can keep going. All right, so as income comes in, obviously we start our month with a certain amount of cash.
Uh-oh. We can't hear you.
Okay, is that better? There we
Yeah.
go. I'm talking. Okay. All right, good deal. All right. So for our as time goes on, we have our cash at the beginning of the month, and we also have our expenses as they go out throughout the month. So when we get started, we have a certain amount in the bank account at the start of the month, and as the month continues to go on, then we can obviously see at that time that we're going to bring in money at a certain rate and money's going to go out at a certain rate. So as money comes in, obviously things are going well and they're going up. So this is our income slash revenue. So those are used interchangeably. And then also we have expenses that are coming out every single month or costs. And as we go, most of you said it sounds like you guys are having money coming in weekly. So as we start the month, we're going to start here, wherever that money was coming in, and then we're going to have expenses going out every week, right? So we're going to start off the month. Let's say that subsidy payment comes in at the beginning of the month, and then we have payroll. So things go down. And as we come back up, because that next week another payment comes in, then we have another week that the payroll and other expenses go out. So this is kind of how we have our flow each week. And as our example is, we're bringing in about 25K a week. Okay. And if you're someone who's charging more on a monthly basis, you're going to start to see a higher number way up here at the beginning of the month because all of that income is coming in, or the majority of it is coming in at the top of the month, and then it's starting to flow down. So this is kind of how our cash, if you guys know, that's how our cash is generally flowing as we go. Are you able to see as I'm writing, or is it a slow, very slow writing process and it's behind my voice?
It's behind your voice, but we're able We're
You're
able to keep up though.
to keep up.
Yeah,
Okay, good deal. Good deal.
I'm
All right.
tracking.
So I don't know why it's lagging today, but it is. But y'all are working with me, so I appreciate it. All right. So from there, as that money comes in and goes out on a monthly basis, the best thing for us to know is when it's coming in and when it's going out because there's the ebb and flow. Okay. So we have this, what's charting on our screen right now is that weekly flow of you're going to have that money come in and go out, come in and go out, and it's gonna kind of go up and down. And so as you know, that income line is mostly going to be a couple of things. That's going to be your tuition, any fees that you're charging, food program, CACFP, any grants that you have coming in. And then those expenses go into four key categories. And I want to make sure if you don't write anything else down, you write these four key categories because they make a big difference. I've made them so I like alliteration. So they all start with a P. We've got payroll. We've got property. We've got program. And we've got process. All right, so with our payroll, property, program, and process, everybody got those? I think you do. So based off of those four categories, that's where we're going to manage our budget. So each month or week, we want to know how much in tuition we're expecting because then we're able to easily be able to put out and say, this is where I'm missing something. Okay. So a parent was late, subsidy didn't come in. You're able to then manage based off of those. I don't know why fees has two S's. All right. Any questions so far? Is everybody following with me? All right. Good deal. I can see Anthony nodding. Thank you. All right. So with that, obviously we know that there's those different categories. We have payroll. Payroll is going to incorporate everything that you're obviously paying out to your team. So that's your salaries and wages. That's also any training, that's CPR training. That's anything that you do on onboarding when you're bringing them in, you're having to train them on what to do. That's background checks that you have to do in order for them to come in. How much are you spending each time you hire a new employee for training, CPR, background checks? Those sort of things are good to know because they all roll into what your payroll costs are. So it's not just what ADP or Gusto is taking out of your account for taxes and payroll. It's also those training fees that you're incorporating as well. Also, if you're using any softwares like Indeed or care.com, things like that to advertise in order to get people in as your employees, those advertising or recruiting costs are also part of this payroll category. Okay, so if you're short staffed right now, or you've just replaced somebody, or somebody moved, or you're planning to hire, these are all the types of costs that you want to keep in mind. And you'll obviously want to know, make sure that you're paying attention. If you're paying people every 2 weeks, that's different than twice a month. Okay, so there's 26 payrolls if instead of 24 if you are paying people every 2 weeks. So some months you're going to find out that your payroll is 3 different Fridays. And so you're having to keep those things in mind too. And that's why that weekly rhythm is important in terms of knowing where your costs are. So the next thing we're going to look at is your payroll or your property costs. The property costs are going to incorporate everything from your rent or mortgage payment. That's also going to take into consideration your um that's also going to take into consideration your repairs and maintenance on the building. So that's grass being cut outside, lines being striped in the parking lot, cleaning and janitorial costs. All of those are incorporated into anything that is directly related to your property, and then also things that are related to repairing, maintaining it. Okay, and that also includes insurance. I know that insurance for childcare centers is really high right now. If it's related to your building insurance or anything like that, that's going to be part of that payroll cost as well. Okay, y'all following me? Give me a hit. There we go. All right, we're with it. Any questions so far? Feel free to unmute yourself if there's any questions about these first two categories that we talked about. All right, no questions. We'll keep rolling. The next category is your program cost. This is anything that is directly related to the kids. Okay, this is where your food program or your food expenses are going to be. And food expenses don't just include groceries. That includes anything like paper products that you're using, napkins, silverware, that kind of stuff, plates, all of those sort of things. If you have a team member who is responsible for going out and getting purchasing those groceries, or you have annual Instacart fees, that kind of thing, all of those want to be incorporated into your program costs. If you are doing any advertising online to try to get more enrollment into your building, that's part of your program cost because you're recruiting students. If you are including any field trips, the field trips are going to be part of the program costs that you're accounting for. Any community events that you have, if you guys have any Halloween events or fall festivals or anything like that that you have going on, those are all part of the programming costs. Curriculum is part of the programming costs. So those are all things that you want to make sure that you're incorporating into the program cost as part of the categories that you're working with. Toys, crafts, supplies, any people that you have coming into your program to read or, do different activities and things like that. Okay. And then our last category here is the process. Your process costs are things that are overhead. Okay. So our overhead costs are things like our accounting, right? If you're paying for accounting software, your dues and subscriptions that are not directly related to the kids, like your curriculum or something like that. Any general marketing that you have as well, general insurance, legal fees, inspection fees, those kind of things are all included there. Okay. And so the next thing I want to talk about is us building that profitable preschool. And in order to build that profitable preschool, those 4 categories that we just talked about are all going to be incorporated in a certain percentage. So let's talk about what those key percentages are. So I'm going to draw a little pie chart here to kind of illustrate what percentages those should be. So I know Anthony and I talked in Instagram DMs recently about this, and 50% of what you bring in is generally going to go out to payroll. 50 to 55%. That's our goal. This is the biggest place where I have seen profit leaks for people in this industry. Our payroll is way too high, but our team still wants to be paid more. Are we right? Yes. Yes. A lot of times we need them to have credentials. We need all of these different things that cost a bit more, but that are still can really make a big difference on the budget. So 55% of what we bring in is going to be payroll related. And again, we talked about that payroll that is training. That could be CPR, that could be anything else. We're talking about obviously the salaries and wages, any benefits that you're paying out, recruiting fees, background checks. All of those things want to be incorporated, and also the payroll taxes that you're paying out as well. Okay. So we want to, and the thing is, payroll normally happens 2, maximum, normally 3 times a month. So this one should be fairly predictable. And the way that I want you to think about this one is if all of your staff members that you have worked the maximum amount of hours that you could potentially have them in the building, so 40 hours, or if they're part-time, 30 hours, whatever it is, base your budget on that as if they're going to each bring in 40 hours a week. Most of the time we don't see it that way. um Obviously somebody clocks out and it's 38 hours for the week, 36 hours, we don't need them, because ratio is so low, so we send them home early. Those sort of things happen. But if you build your budget based off of what is both normal for you but also what could happen, that allows you to make sure that you have enough in your budget to make sure that you actually have extra. Okay. That second category that we talked about was the property. And for the property, we want to have 22 to 25% or less. Okay. And remember, that property is not just your rent. That property is also your repairs and maintenance. That property is also your insurance. that property is also your utilities. Okay, so we want to keep all of those things in mind. So that's another 20 up to 25%.
Hey Alexis, I don't mean to cut you off. Yeah,
Yep.
go back to payroll real quick.
Uh-huh.
So you got training, CPR, salaries, benefits, recruiting. What's underneath recruiting? Something checks?
BG checks, background checks.
Background checks. Okay, great.
Uh-huh.
Thank you so very much. Appreciate that.
No problem. Payroll taxes, all of those sorts of things. Okay. So for your property, we've got your rent or mortgage payment. We've also got repairs and maintenance. And let's be real about this one, because this one creeps up on folks. Even if you're not, this month, nothing happened in the building. Next month, it could be the AC and it could cost you $8,000. Right. And so if you think about even last year, how much did we pay in repairs and maintenance over that entire year? We want to make sure that you're taking into consideration, if nothing else, breaking that out into a monthly thing that you can expect this year. Because this is one of the areas that I see that kind of throws people for a loop. The furnace breaks. We're all starting to turn the heat on. It's getting a little colder. Those types of things are happening right now, and those are things that we want to make sure that we're planning for and expecting. Okay, so we've got rent or mortgage, we've got repairs and maintenance. If you have a janitorial staff or anything like that, all of your cleaning products are considered in that category as well. And then also like your insurance for the building. Again, this includes your playground having to be maintained, all of those sorts of things. All right. Any other questions there before I move on from property? All right. Our next category is the program cost. So this is what goes towards the kids. And for the program costs, we want between 12 and 15%. And of course, if you're lower in any of those categories, that just means there's more profit at the end of the day. Okay. It doesn't mean that you have to get up to them. It's more so this is kind of our cap. This is where we want to cap things. So for our program costs, we're going to be at 12 to 15%. And this is where all that food comes in. So food cost, again, doesn't just mean the groceries. It also means cutlery, those sort of things as well. If you have a chef or you have a catering company that provides meals for your center, you want to include that as part of the program costs. Even that specific staff member that is directly related um, to food preparation. Even if that's you, if you're that person, whatever it is, a portion of that needs to be divided out into your program cost. This is also any field trips or special events. We're also going to include any community events here. We're also going to include our like Instagram, Facebook ads, care.com ads, any kind of paid advertising that you're doing as well. That's to recruit people into your program for the to bring more kids in. All of that is included there. Can you guys think of any other costs that I might be missing within the program that you guys directly have? I know curriculum may be one of them. That's a monthly expense generally. Anything else that's directly related to the kids that you see often? I know some programs do uniforms. All right. If not, we'll keep going. All right, so for the program costs, we want to make sure that we're bringing all of those in as well. And again, we want to stay at about 12 to 15%. All right, and then last but not least, well, I guess it is least because it's the one that we want you to spend the least on, is those overhead costs. So that's what we call your process. Okay, those are leases for printers and copiers. That's your accounting, legal fees. That's any professional development that's not directly related to your staff. So this might be you going to a childcare conference. That includes any transportation costs that are not directly related to your program. If you guys are doing transportation and parents are paying for that transportation to and from, like sometimes for after school, I've seen where people do actually bus or van their kids back and forth from the schools. If that's part of it, then that's going to go in program costs. So if it's directly related to the kids, you want to make sure that it goes there. But otherwise, we have transportation there as well. Okay. And for our process, we want that to be 3 to 5%. And when I'm talking about these percentages, here's where I'm coming from. Let's go back to our original example. We're at $100,000 a month. So we're at a center that has about 100 kids at $1,000 a piece. Okay. And so if we're looking at the budget for the month for this particular center that I'm talking about, this 100K, that center is going to have 50% payroll. We're going to be at 50,000. We're going to be at 22% for, or 22 to 25%, so about 22 to $25,000 a month for our property. We're going to be at 12 to 15% or $12,000 a month for our program costs. So that's our curriculum, our food costs, things like that. And then for our example here for that $100,000 a month for the process, we're going to probably be at about $5,000 a month, which is about 5%. So based off of that, we have our 50,000 or 50% for payroll. We've got our 25% for our property, our 12% for our program, and our 5% for our process.
Hey Alexis, I must have missed this. Is it just 5% for the process, or is there a range? 5 to 7,
Oh,
five
yeah,
to
it's 3 to 5.
3 to 5%. Okay,
Uh-huh.
great. Thank you.
No problem. So based off of our example here, that means that we've spent 92%. So at this, based off of this example that I gave, and again, I could move instead of our property, we're at 22 to 25, I put it at 25. If we were at 22, we'd be at 95%. I'm sorry, we'd be at 89%. So that means that we have an 8% profit in this business per month. So we'd be looking at $8,000 in profit a month that's left over at the end of the day. How does that sound? Our goal is to be somewhere around 10 to 15% profit. So when we're looking at where we are, I would want to say, okay, based off of these percentages, I was at 50% payroll, which is at kind of at the bottom of where our range is. We're at 50 to 55%. For our property, I put us at 25%. I would want to try to bring that down if at all possible. One of the things that we did with one of our centers recently is that they were paying an outside company to come in and do their janitorial services. And what we found is that if they paid a full-time employee to do the cleaning on a regular basis, that was going to switch them into a better percentage than the outside contractor coming in. And so they decided to bring on a full-time janitorial staff person who could continue to work with them on a regular basis and be present every day. And they got better results from that because they had someone in the building on a regular basis, because kids get sick or that things spill and all of the rest of the things. It doesn't take you out of ratio for having to have someone come and take care of those spills or other things that can happen. And it also actually made a big difference. Similarly, another quick example that we went through recently is that we had a center who was spending she was spending about $20,000 a month for food, for an outside caterer for her program. And what we found again is if she brought that in house and even hired a chef, it wasn't going to cost her $20,000 a month, including the food and also having that full-time staff person there. So sometimes there's movement and there's opportunities for us to go ahead and make changes. Um, come on, to make changes in things, even if those percentages are within the range. If you want to pull a little bit more out of it, you can still make sure that you're making edits where you can. And one other thing, a lot of times we need to look at our vendors. And when I say look at our vendors, what I mean is not necessarily, hey, can you, one of the things that is good is, can you take payment this day? Can't, that kind of thing. But one of the biggest, and I'm going to get to this later, so maybe I'm bringing it up a little bit early about the leaks. But one of the biggest things is, are you on the right plan with that vendor? Okay, so if we're looking at something that's a subscription fee, are you in the enterprise or the big business subscription and you realize you're not using the majority of those features and you could pare back a little bit, right? So sometimes it's things like that that can make a big difference. It's $100 here, $200 there, but that's sometimes a week's worth of someone's tuition coming to your school for after school or something like that. Okay, so those things can make a difference as well. Is there any questions before I keep moving on? I do want to take this time for you all. If you do have any direct question, I want to we can do some kind of live coaching here while we're at it. For if you have your financial statements from your accountant or from your accounting software and you want to kind of see where you are, I do have an example on mine where I can show you where we've gone through and actually done kind of this process. So this is how I would recommend that you do it. If you guys can see my screen here, what I've done is gone through the income statement of a child care center that I work with here recently. And this is the most recent month. So they're bringing in about 30,000. And this is for the year. They're at about, where are we at? 500,000 for the year. So that's year to date. And what I've done here is just gone through, even literally, if you do this with a piece of paper and a couple highlighters or crayons, it doesn't matter what it is, to kind of help you color code them. But what I've done here is I've just taken a different color for each of the cost categories that we talked about. And I've highlighted just on their financial statements what's happening here. So income here, we have three different income categories. We've got accounting. Accounting is part of our process cost. Activity cost, that's part of the program cost. So that one's in green. We've got yellow for these bank service charges here. And yellow I have over here as yellow was part of our process cost. I added those later because I missed those earlier. Our blue was part of property, and then purple was part of payroll, and pink was process. So just going through each of your areas to find out kind of where are we. One of the easiest ones to do is property. So if you guys want to take about 5 minutes, we'll take about a 5-minute pause. I'll play some more smooth jazz. If you want to pull up your most recent income statement from your accountant, from your accounting software, so we can probably look at September if you can. This isn't something you have to share. Just want to get you guys in the habit of knowing kind of what your percentage is. Okay. So what we're going to look at, for example, in our example here, is that we're going to look for everything property related. So I want you guys to go through. We're going to take this next 5 minutes if you can. And again, this is not something you're going to have to share. This is for your own knowledge, for your own impact on your business. Okay. Just to give you insight. So what we're going to do is take 5 minutes. You're going to look at your most recent statement and you're going to look at your property cost. And we're going to figure out based off of what I want you to calculate is I have here cleaning supplies, I have rent expense, I have repairs and maintenance, and I have utilities. Those are the 4 pieces on this example, all in blue, that are part of the property cost. So I want to calculate in total, use a calculator on your phone, on your computer, however you want to do it. Add up those costs that are related to your property, total them, and then go back up here to our top line and look at what our total income is. And we want to divide that total the total property cost by the income. So in my example, again, I just want to make sure I cover the example. For the example, I was at $8,052 over here in the blue. Let me see, where's my pencil? Over here in the blue, we were at $8,052 for our total property cost. That included those cleaning supplies, the rent, the utilities, repairs and maintenance. All of those things were included. And for this example, we were at $8,052. And because our income for the month was 30,000, we just divide the 8,000 by 30,000. and I ended up with 0.27 and some change, which is 27%. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys a 5 minute breather here to figure. It sounds like Anthony has a question. What's up?
Property, I'm sorry, not property insurance. Workman's comp. Does
Hmm.
that fall into property
No,
or does
workman's.
that
Good question. Workman's comp's gonna fall into payroll.
payroll?
That's yeah.
Cool.
That's directly related to the people being in your building. Yep.
Okay.
Hmm. Great question.
So building insurance, that would fall into property or no?
Yes, it will.
So how would you break out insurance if like my building insurance and general liability and medical coverage and child molestation, all that is paid at one time? How do you break that into, or do we just put that all into property?
Good question. So if you don't break it out on a like, do you have the same provider for all of them and they're all just one big fee?
Yes.
Okay. For now, if they're normally like three different types of insurances, probably put about half of it into your property. But then on a normal basis, what I would consider doing is looking at your like insurance paperwork when it comes out and just seeing how much of this is related to my property versus how much of this is related to my vehicles or, the different things that general liability insurance, and have those kind of broken out. So each month when you see it in your accounting, you'll see this is how much it is and you can know kind of where they are. But for this exercise, I'd probably put about half.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Alexis, one more question. Sorry.
Sure, you're good.
Um, I'm assuming property, talking about utilities also, right? So water, cable, internet,
Yes.
boom.
Mhm. Yep. Yep. Water, electricity, gas, all of those types of things.
So now the vehicle though doesn't go into property?
No, no. The vehicle,
No. Okay.
generally speaking, your vehicle insurance is either going to go to two different places depending on kind of how you're using it. If it's a general vehicle, it's going to go in the process cost. If it is a vehicle that you're using to transport children, or like you're going to pick them up from after school or you do before school, that kind of thing, that's going to be part of the process or program. I'm sorry, program.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, we got about 1 more minute to wrap up that one.
And you said take the total amount that you have and then divide that by income or expenses. Total
Total
expenses.
income.
Total income.
Uh-huh. And not for the year, if you were calculating it based off the month, you want to go off that month's income as well, total income. And then same thing, if you were doing it based off the year, you'll want to do it based off that year's income so far. All right. Hopefully that was helpful for everybody and you were able to see kind of what your percentages are based off of your center. We're going pretty quickly here to make sure that we can cover everything, but that at least gives you a good start for where you're currently at in terms of your center and where you guys are headed. So if you're a little bit high on there, then that's where you start to get creative about, hey, how can we get this more into where the industry benchmark is? But I do want you to keep one thing in mind, okay? If your number is too high, like our example here, in our example, let's go back here. In our example here, our property cost for the month that we were looking at was 27%. And based off of what I shared with you today, we would want to be somewhere between 22 and 25%. And so that would be high for that month. But then when I looked at the year, we were only at 11%. So we were looking at, depending on where you're looking or what time period you're looking at, things can change. So this might have been a month where, for example, it looks like based off of what I know about this situation, this income, the state subsidy didn't come in for that month. And so that's why the property percentage was so high. But on the annual basis, they were only at 11%. So they were still within range, just simply because the month that for that particular month, the food program hadn't come in yet. Okay. So you want to look at it both on a month basis and then also looking at the year before you make any major swings in one area or another. Okay. So we'll have our go ahead and look at that as you go through this over the next couple of days or so. This is one good thing, one good way to kind of see where you are and where you need to tweak first for your budget to make things work out a little bit better for you. Okay. And one of the things to keep in mind is that if you are currently struggling with enrollment, okay. So I recently went to a conference in Atlanta for specifically for childcare. And one of the biggest things was this year alone, um, for whatever reason, this year, everyone is experiencing that slump in enrollment. Okay. So it's not, and I say everyone, that's kind of general, but that was one of the biggest issues that was happening I've been in this business for 14 years and this is the lowest in enrollment we've ever had. And one thing I like people to keep in mind is that if you are in a dip, that can greatly make a difference in your percentages because as you see here, for the month we were at 27%, but for the year we were only at 11. Okay, so keep both of those things in mind when looking at this. Any questions before I move on? Even if it's in one of the other categories, that's fine too. All right.
Hey, Alexis, just out of curiosity, and I know obviously you are professional for hire, and you know what, I appreciate that. This is nothing is for free.
Uh-huh.
So if I already have a bookkeeper that does all of my stuff, however, I'm also I like what you're saying because it makes it easy for me to understand the four P's. And I get a profit and loss statement every quarter. Would it be possible? Obviously, I can pay you for me to send you my P&L, and then you help me identify what goes in the payroll property programs process. Is
Yes.
that something? And I'm asking because there may be things on here that we do that other schools may not do, and I want to make sure that I'm including everything in those four different categories because it may be something I'm missing, right? So I just wanted to make sure that we stay on top of our game. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely something you can help that I can help with. And I think sometimes also when we're getting the financial statements less frequently, because I heard you say quarterly, you're not able to make adjustments as quickly, right? So if you have that information on a monthly basis, that allows you to adjust before you get to the end of the quarter, and it's like, oh shoot, I didn't know we were that, that good, doing that well or otherwise, right? And so making sure that's yes, but yes, to answer your question, yes, we can. That's definitely something that we can do. All right. So we have covered so far, we've covered not only the financial flow of things, but we've also covered there we go. We've also covered We've also covered the profitable preschool and kind of how to build that. And so now we're going to talk quickly about looking for leaks. Okay. So one of the biggest things that I see leaking, if you think about it like a faucet for most center owners, is that we are looking at just costs that have gotten out of control. Okay. So it could be something like one of the biggest things I saw after COVID is that all of the grants and such that happened were really trying to get you to retain your workforce. Okay. And in order to retain your workforce, they wanted you to put those PPP funds back into your staff. They wanted you to put those employment retention credits back into your staff. They wanted you to put those workforce retention grants back into your staff. And so what I saw happen during that time is that a lot of centers decided like, hey, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give bonuses. I'm going to give pay increases. I'm going to, do a lot of training or travel and all of these different things, right? And so what's happened now is that now that grant money is gone, right? And I don't see any foreseeable time where that's going to return. Um, the pandemic was a very interesting time for sure. And so I don't see that happening again anytime soon where people are just kind of pushing funds into this industry. And so what I want to make sure that we're mindful of is that as you're bringing in new staff, you're not necessarily going to be able to bring them in at the same rates that you were bringing them in during COVID. Okay. And so what we're looking at is making sure that there's not leaks in certain areas that could be preventable. So there's a couple of places where I've seen leaks the most. One of them is payroll. And we're going to look at all of your staff members and you're going to look and say, okay, do I have the right people in the right place? Okay. A lot of times, what I've seen is that if you do have infants, your infant classroom is not profitable. And I don't expect it to be. Why? Because you can only have 4 to 1 normally, if not less than that. And so that normally those 4 children pretty much pay for that one staff person for the month. Okay. And so, based off of their income for the month and expenses tied to them being there with food and such, that's one of those loss leaders. But as they get a little bit older, we're expected to see things a little bit differently. Okay. One of the other leaks that I see regarding payroll is in what payroll provider we choose. Okay. What I've seen is that I am a big fan of Gusto. Okay. That's one of the systems I'm going to talk about later. But whoever you choose to provide for your payroll, what I've seen is that a lot of schools do work with ADP, which is perfectly fine. But if you're unhappy with them for whatever reason, or also realizing that that's one of those places where you can kind of true up on some of those dues and subscriptions, I've seen where Gusto is about half the cost of ADP. They don't charge per payroll, they charge per month, and that they have a better experience. And it integrates with your softwares like your Brightwheel, your ProCare, your Playground, Kangaroo Time, all of those sorts of things. Okay. Taxes is another area where there's some huge leaks going on. Like I said before, last week we had a new consultation with the client and found $6,000, right? And that was just for 1 year. That 6 grand alone, it makes a huge difference in her program right now. Okay, so that's the equivalent of 6 kids paying for a month, right? That just comes right back to her pocket that she was missing out on. Same thing, a lot of different states. I do work with one lady in Texas, and recently what we were able to do for her was Texas has a property tax exemption for childcare centers, whether you rent or you own the building, it doesn't make a difference. But she was a renter in those built in 3 different locations that she has, and had not been granted that exemption because you have to apply for it. Okay, so we applied for that exemption and it brought her rents down by $1,000 a month. Okay, so that was a savings of it was actually like 13 and some change per location. Okay, so looking for those types of leaks, whether it be taxes, whether it be dues and subscriptions, has been one where you find out that you are subscribed to Adobe Express and Canva and Adobe Photoshop, and so or things like that where you have several subscriptions that really could be condensed into one based off of the different things that you have. Okay. And then also looking at any questions so far. I just wanted to make sure I stopped to pause for anything that might be there. Okay, looks like we're all good. So those are the kind of key leaks that I've seen. We want to make sure that from a tax standpoint, you have not only the best entity, Okay, so making sure that you have the right entity for how much money and profit you're bringing into the business. Making sure that if you have a home office or if you, yeah, this was a fun one. We, there's a center in Kansas that we're Kansas City, Missouri area that we're working with, and they had the center doesn't have any storage, right? It's like you're using almost all of the building that you can, and so the owners have had a 3-car garage that one of the car areas of that garage were being used to store all the like seasonal or different things that they needed for their center. What we found out, Leslie said, it sounds like her center. Yeah, what we found out is that they were storing those things at their home, right? In their garage, in their basement, that kind of thing. And they weren't getting any benefit for it. And my thought was, okay, if you were paying public storage or, some storage company like that, what would happen in those situations? You'd have to pay a fee. So this one of the strategies is that you can also pay yourself that fee, um as if you're renting it to the center, right? And so the you're able to take essentially that cash. Yes, it's coming out of your center into your pocket, but it's keeping your taxes lower, right? And you're from the standpoint of it's almost like a home office. You're not having to report that as income from the other side as the owner, because it's almost like a home office expense where the business is reimbursing you for using that space, just like they would do public storage. So what we did in that situation was we looked at the zip code they were in within 3 to 5 miles of their location, to see what would public storage for this space be able to accommodate. So if I needed 1,000 square feet, okay, how much does 1,000 square feet cost at public storage, or what is it, the U-Haul storage, that kind of thing. And then we were able to say, okay, here's an average of how much would be charged, and then we started reimbursing her business based off of that. Okay. So those are some of the leaks that I see come through where you can definitely make a big difference. Okay. So one thing I forgot to do earlier that I want to make sure we do now is earlier when I was talking about the financial flow, we talked about the due dates. And so I want you to just kind of take a minute to rate your business on something. Give yourself a 3 if you know the due dates, they're paid on time, they are scheduled on a calendar, and you have a financial management system. If that sounds like you in terms of the financial flow of your business, rate yourself a 3 in that. If it would be a 2 if you know the due date, but it's only mostly on time. Okay. And you're not really on top of the financial system, but you do have one. Okay. And then give yourself a 1 if you don't know the due dates, you're often late. And what do you mean by a financial system? Okay. So 3 if we know the due dates, 2 if we kind of know the due dates, and a 1 if we don't know them. Okay. So keep this rating to yourself. It's not something you got to share unless you want to, but just to kind of give you an idea of kind of where you are. And then in terms of the cash coming in, if it's consistently received on time, you know how much is coming in, and you are charging fees based on your contract. You've got 3. You're in the green. Okay. If payments are received inconsistently, but it's not, due to anything of on your side, it's out of your control. If you're unsure of kind of how much is coming in or when it's coming in, we're going to go with a 2. Or if you're inconsistent with charging your fees, we're going to give yourself a 2. And then give yourself a 1 if payments received inconsistently or it's late, again, because of something that you've done, like, hey, I forgot to send, I've seen this a lot. Oh yeah, I forgot to, do my paperwork for the food program. So it's going to be late, that kind of stuff. And you want to give a 1. And if you're not charging any additional fees for late fees, or like if someone doesn't pay on time. Okay. So you're just kind of thinking of that in terms of things that might also be there that you want to make sure that you're keeping track of. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about the smart money systems. And with the smart money systems, here are 3 that I really, really like. And I think these will be really helpful, especially if you want to get into that weekly rhythm where you are actually able to see what's coming in on a weekly basis. It's in your system. Okay. So I already talked a little bit about Gusto. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see a copy of this. For those systems, I like Zero for accounting software, but it doesn't really matter whether you're using Zero, whether you're using QuickBooks. I've found that most people think that Zero is a lot more user friendly. But if it's something that you're used to using on a regular basis, then that's perfectly fine as well, as long as you're able to get good financial data out of your financial system, then you're good to go. So as long as you're using something to do your accounting, or your accountant is using, you have an accountant or bookkeeper who's doing that for you. One of the troubles that I've seen recently, though, is that folks have had a bookkeeper or an accountant, but they don't have access to the software themselves to see what's going on over there. So for example, if I had a call last week and someone said, "Oh yeah, like I get the paperwork every week, but I don't have access to the system." You should have access to the system. It's your data. Okay? So make sure that's the case as well. Whatever they're using, QuickBooks, Zero, anything else, making sure that you have access to it. Okay, it doesn't mean you have to necessarily use it on a regular basis, but you should be able to get in there and get answers to things. Because a lot of times what I've seen is that people will come in and say, "Hey, yeah, I get the reports, but I don't think they're right." Right? And it's like, okay, well, what do you think is wrong with them? Well, they said that I had this much in this category and I don't know what all is in there. If you had access to that system, you'd be able to see what was in there. You could pull the report, click on the number, and it would show you all the different transactions that they considered repairs and maintenance. And you're like, oh, that's not a repair. That was this and this and that, whatever it might be. And then you can kind of get them to correct it as needed. The other one we talked about today was Gusto. That is a payroll software. A reason I like it is because you get like 2 clicks if you're booking that into your childcare management system. So if you're using it with Brightwheel or ProCare or some other system, if your team is clocking in there, it makes it really, really easy to just be able to get things automated from that standpoint. And what I've seen, if you're doing manual entry into your payroll software, there's going to be errors. Okay, so I like that automation between them. And then last but not least, I have on here Float. Float is the one that gives us those weekly reports for how much is coming out of your system. I actually just closed this tab. So for Float, what it's going to show you is a listing of all of the different expenses that you have on a monthly basis, um, or sorry, on a weekly or monthly basis, depending on how you toggle it. And it's going to list that out for you so that you can see how much you're expected to have coming in and how much you're expecting to come out. This is another reason why you having access to your data in your accounting software is so important. Because if you wanted to be able to pull these numbers out, you can connect this directly to your accounting software. It will pull in your receipts, it will pull in the habits of how often you've been paying things, and essentially spit out a nice report here. This is a demo company because I didn't want to show you any client data. But what you're going to see here is that, for example, they have an invoice that they're expecting $1,800 in here coming in, but also this week, and it shows you by the week or by the month. So here we have October 9th, the 12th, and 27th. Those are all expected payments that are going to be coming out or money coming in. And then there's another invoice due on November 2nd. So they're knowing that cash is coming in. And you can pull this report on a weekly basis or also on a monthly basis. Let me move this over. So this is the list view, but then we also have like a full table that you can have. And then also it will export this information to like a PDF if you actually wanted to see it like on paper as opposed to the screen. But what we can do here is, like, for example, we were talking about our business that had $1,200 that was due this to them this week. And it also shows what's due to you over the next couple weeks. So we can see October 9th and also on the 2nd. And then any expenses that you have, you can always add more expenses. So for example, let's say that this month that we're going to add in a new expense. And let's say we're planning on, that was the advertising. Let's say we have Facebook ads and we know we're planning to spend $25 a day. We can go ahead and automatically put in what that amount is, and it'll adjust our budget. And now you'll know for the week where your cash is going to be. So this $11,524 is how much cash is in this pretend company at the beginning of the month or the week. And then it's showing here at the bottom what's expected to be there by the end of the week. So that allows you to be able to see what those cash inflows and outflows are on a weekly basis and what's going to be left by the end of that week. So I like that insight for you to be able to see how that works on a weekly basis, or if weekly is too often for you, they do also have the monthly view as well, but I think it kind of gets really long depending on what your expenses are. So looking at it for that week, here's how much we have coming in, here's how much have going out. That's has seemed to be a really valuable report, and that software is available. Again, it's floatapp.com. You can sign up for a 14-day trial if that's something that you're interested in, to be able to pull your information into there. So that's one of the systems that I really enjoy as well, using with our clients as well. So we've looked at locating the leaks. We've looked at our system, our money systems that we're using, as well as the amounts for the different categories and being able to manage those on a regular basis. Um, Anthony did talk about potentially working with us to work with some things. If any of you are interested in working with us, you can apply to be able to do that. It's littleledgers.com/apply-now. And you can be able to just fill out that application there. What that'll do once you answer those questions is give you access to my calendar, where you can book yourself directly on my calendar to be able to chat about it and then talk about what that would look like for you. I want to make sure before we go today that I answer any questions that you guys have while we're here. Let me know if this was helpful and what the most helpful thing was. Does anybody want to start? Because I can only make it better from here. And if not, that's fine too.
Hey, Alexis, what's that email address again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. So I didn't send it an email address, but the web
I'm
address.
sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. The web address is littleledgers.com/apply-now. It should be on the screen, but if you don't see it on the screen, then we've
It
had all
probably is, and I'm just
no.
not even looking. There, it's right here, right in front of me.
It's
It's
all
right in
good.
front.
It's all good.
I'm
It's
a,
all good.
that's what happens when you're a man and you don't pay too much attention. This is what happens.
All good. All
Dash
good.
net. I think all of it was helpful, man, to be honest with you, because in our, at least in Virginia, I can't speak for other places in Central Virginia. There's a lot of nonprofit childcare centers in this area. So when you're a for-profit business, it makes it a little challenging because not everybody understands what you're going through as small in terms of small business. I've been in childcare for 19 years, a long time. And sometimes you do feel like, yeah, obviously you want to provide a great opportunity for families and you want to serve community,
Mm-hmm.
but you also want to make sure that you have good currency so you can stay open, so you can provide
Yes.
service to families, right? And so we go to these childcare conferences a lot. I've been going to conferences for decades, and there's a lot more intuitive in terms of child development and curriculum and what you're supposed to be doing in the classroom, but it's not a lot of information out there geared towards the business side of childcare. So I think this whole presentation, the whole workshop, was actually pretty informative. So I thank you. I truly appreciate it.
You are welcome. You are welcome. I did see that whole. I did see that whole. Even in attending conferences that this year, where it was focused on either the, like you said, the curriculum, kind of what to do in the classroom, management of staff, like how to manage your staff, which is also important, obviously. But I did see that whole of the financial side, right? So yeah, we can talk about increasing enrollment, because that's another one that I often see, increasing enrollment, but really managing the business finances, I haven't seen as much in that place. So I'm happy to kind of fill that hole there. And thank you for the feedback. That's great. Any other questions? Any other concerns or feedback before we go today?
Mine's
I enjoyed it. I'm pretty new, so I appreciate the information.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you, Miss Nina.
For me, I'm kind of on the flip side of what Anthony was saying because I am a small nonprofit center and there's not a lot of resources as far as the bigger nonprofits are the ones connected to the churches and all that. So their parishioners are the ones that are funding all of their things. Whereas I'm out here looking on my own,
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure it out. So I understood what he said as far as that, but also kind of seeing the opposite side of being a nonprofit small business because I'm just a single location, just me
Mm-hmm.
doing my thing. So, but this is
Absolutely.
good.
Good. Glad that was helpful. And thank you for sharing. Thank you guys for being so open and interactive today. Cause I'm like, I can't stand listening to webinars where they just talking and reading slides. I'm like, we need to get to work, hun. So I'm glad you guys it was helpful. And like you said, Leslie, it's a challenge no matter what, because you're either like you said, the parishioners of a church are able to help fund right that center. They don't necessarily, it gives them something to have during going on in the church building during the week, but it's much different than owning a private nonprofit that's not, church funded and relying on grants in the state and all of the rest of that stuff to kind of bring it in. So, but congrats to both of you for being here, or all three of you for being here and for putting in the work in your businesses on a regular basis. And again, if you guys want to get in touch with me, you can by applying, or you can also reach me at alexis@littleledgers.com. That's the email address for you guys to be able to have as well. So thanks again for being here. I'm glad this was helpful for all of you. Thanks to you for sticking around to the end. And again, you can reach me at alexis@littleledgers.com, or using the web address that you see on the screen to apply to work with us. And I hope y'all have a great week. Have a safe holiday weekend, and hopefully I'll talk to y'all soon. All right. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.